Hello, this is AJ. Welcome to the next lesson. Here we go. This one is called Be a Champion. Now, champion has a couple different meanings. One meaning of champion is winner, a winner. So a champion is someone who wins a game or wins a fight or is number one. Number one. So we talk about a champion team. So they're the number one team. But we're not using that meaning in this lesson. We're using a different meaning. Another meaning of champion is somebody that fights for a good cause. Someone who fights for something good. Someone who defends something good. And that's what we're talking about here. Be a champion. Be somebody that fights for good things. That's not afraid that you will fight for what is right. You will fight for what is good. That's the idea here. Be a champion. And I'm going to read a small section from a book called Free Prize Inside. And it's by Seth Godin. Seth Godin is an internet marketing expert. He was a member of Yahoo, the internet company. Back in the beginning, when Yahoo was first starting, he helped their marketing. And then later, he sold his own company, made a lot of money. And now he just writes about internet marketing. He's got a lot of great books about business. But, he also talks about just life in general. A lot of his advice about careers, about business, is just good advice in general. It's good advice for life in general. And this is one of the nicest sections of his book, where he talks about being a champion in your career, in your job. And what he means is that in your job, you should fight for what is right, what is good, what is interesting, what will help the company most. And usually, you have to break rules to do that. Usually, you have to be different. Usually, you have to be kind of strong to do that. You can't just be the same as everybody else. So let me read this section and then we'll talk about it more. Here we go. Be a champion. Go ahead. Do something great. Champion an innovation. I dare you. Because the choice is between following the rules or doing the right thing. Everyone's got great ideas. You have great ideas. The difference between success and failure most definitely is not about a shortage of ideas that are good. Instead, success is about overcoming the status quo and inertia and working within your organization to make things happen. The good news is that this is exactly what your company wants you to do. And it's fun and it's rewarding. And once you learn how to do it, you are guaranteed a good job for the rest of your life. The bad news is that it's difficult and it's sometimes lonely. Whoever you wish to be, you have to make a choice, a conscious decision to be that person. Will you be a champion? Will you be remarkable? Will you be outstanding in your career, in your life? Or will you be careful and normal and mediocre? Choose. And by embracing this choice, by announcing your choice to yourself and eventually to other people, you will make this process far more likely to succeed. Okay, interesting. Nice section from Seth Godin. I really like him. And of course, again, this advice is great for all of your life, not just your career, but he specifically writes about business and career. So here's what he's saying. He says you have a choice. You have two choices, really, in your career. You can decide to be normal, follow the rules, be mediocre, do the same thing that everyone else is doing, or you can decide to be a champion, to fight for new things, to fight for innovations, to fight for improvements, to fight for what is right, to fight for creative, interesting projects, to go against what is normal and boring. That's your choice. And he's right. It's scary in the beginning because we all went through normal schools. And in normal schools, in almost every country in the world, you're taught to be normal, average, follow the rules. That's what you learned in school. Follow the rules. Do what you are told. That is great advice for succeeding in school. It's terrible advice for succeeding in your career or life. Seth Godin is correct. The people with the best careers, with the best jobs, with the most money are champions. They don't just follow the rules. They do new, interesting things. They innovate in their companies. They find new ideas that will benefit the company. If they find something that's wrong, they fix it. They don't wait to ask permission. These are the people who have the best careers. Now, I went through this process myself. So, I'm not yelling at you because I also, one time in the past, I was just following the rules, doing what everyone else was doing as a teacher. So in my first few jobs, I just did the same thing as every other teacher. I used the textbooks that the school required. And I used the same drills, the same activities. And I thought, well, this is the smart way to improve my career. Right? Follow the rules. Do what you're told to do, what everyone else is doing. It didn't work. I continued to get paid very badly, made very little money, and I didn't enjoy my job. And the worst thing for me was that my students didn't improve. And this bothered me a lot. And in fact, I focused a lot more on my students. And the more I focused on my students, the less I cared about my boss or my school. And I became a champion for my students. I decided I'm going to fight for my students. I will do anything and everything to help them. I will break the rules. I will use different methods. I will throw away the textbooks. I don't care. My job is to be a champion for my students, my customers, my real customers, right? And so that's what I did. I stopped using the normal textbooks. I started to find different methods. I went back to school and got a master's degree, and I learned a lot of incredibly cool, interesting teaching methods, and I began to use those. And every job I got, I was always a champion for my students. As a result, I became more and more popular with my students, with the real customers. They really started to like my class. I got more attention. I started to get more money and better positions. My career improved. Now, sometimes I got in trouble because I broke the rules, right? I was a champion, not a rule follower. I got fired from one job because I didn't use the required textbooks and I didn't follow the required procedures and rules. And I refused to use the same grading system that every other teacher used. So I got fired. Many people think, oh, that's terrible. It's terrible. It was not terrible. It was fantastic because the next job I got was even better. And as a result of getting fired, I began to think about starting my own company. I began to realize if I really want to be a champion and do what is right, then I need to be in control. I need to be the boss. Because I'm always going to have problems if I am just fighting against traditional schools all the time. And so I started my own company, and my company has grown, and I'm making more money than I ever did as a teacher, and I'm happier than I ever was as an employee. And so my career has gotten better and better and better because I have been a champion for my customers, for my students. By focusing on being a champion, I have made much, much more money. I have improved my position. I am now the owner of my own company. Everything is better. I'm a better teacher. My students are even happier. Everything improved because of that. That has been the key. And even if I decided to close my business and just look for jobs, I could get a job very fast, very easily. Why? Because now I am a much, much, much better teacher. I'm very confident. I have a lot of experience now as the owner of my own business. So as Seth Godin says, you're guaranteed a good job for the rest of your life if you learn how to be a champion. Because there are always companies who are looking for champions, even when the economy is bad, even when times are tough. There's always a job for a true champion. The people who lose their jobs are the people who are normal and average. They can be replaced easily. You can cut their job and hire a new person and pay them less. Or just cut their job because they're not doing anything interesting or new or different. They're replaceable. Normal people are replaceable. People who follow the rules are replaceable. They're easy to cut. Champions are unique. Champions are special. They're remarkable. They're outstanding. Companies don't usually cut them. And if you do get fired, if you do get cut, another company will hire you very quickly. When I got fired from my job in Thailand, I easily found a job in San Francisco. I could have gotten another job in Thailand very easily. No problem, because at that point, I was a champion. I had a passion. I had a mission. I had my own unique methods. I was not the same as every other teacher. I made myself a champion. I made myself different, special. And because of that, it was very easy for me to get another job. Very, very easy. It's the same with you in your career. Doesn't matter what you do in life. If you become a champion, if you fight for what is good, what is interesting, what is new, if you're always trying to innovate, you're going to have a much better career than if you just follow the rules and do what everyone else does. So that's my mission to you. Be a champion. Try new things. Fight for new ideas. Fight for creative, cool, interesting projects at your job and in your life. Do this. You're guaranteed to always have a good job with your same company or with a new company. All right. Well, I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Hi, this is AJ. Welcome to the mini story for Be a Champion. Let's begin. Inca wanted to help homeless people. She was a champion for poor people. Did she help poor people? Did she fight for poor people? Did she defend poor people? Yes, that's right. She was a champion for poor people. What was she? She was a champion. She was a champion for who? For poor people. Inca was a champion for poor people. Who did she help? Poor people. She helped poor people. She fought for and helped poor people. Who was a champion for poor people? Inca. Inca was a champion for poor people. Was she a champion for the rich and powerful? No. She was not a champion for the rich and powerful. She was a champion for poor people. Who was she a champion for? Poor people. She was a champion for poor people. What was she? A champion for poor people, for homeless people. In fact, she wanted to build houses for all the homeless people in San Francisco. What did she want to do? She wanted to build houses for all the homeless people in San Francisco. Which homeless people did she want to help? The homeless people in San Francisco. The homeless people in San Francisco. That's who she wanted to help. What did she want to do for them? She wanted to build houses for them. Right? She was a champion for homeless people. She was a champion for poor people. And she wanted to build houses for all the homeless people in San Francisco. Where? Where did she want to build houses for homeless people? In San Francisco. She wanted to build houses for homeless people in San Francisco. Who was a champion for the poor? Who wanted to build houses for homeless people? Inca. Inca was a champion for the poor. Inca wanted to build houses for all the homeless people. Where? In San Francisco. So she talked to rich people. She talked to middle-class people. She talked to them about her idea. What was her idea? Her idea was to build small, cheap houses for every homeless person in San Francisco. What kind of houses did she want to build? Small, cheap houses. She wanted to build small, cheap houses. For who? Or for whom? For homeless people. She wanted to build small, cheap houses for homeless people. All the homeless people in San Francisco. She talked to rich people about this idea. She wanted money from them. She talked to middle-class people. She wanted them to help. What did most people think about her idea? They thought she was crazy. Most people thought that Inca was crazy. In fact, most people said, the status quo is fine. Homeless people deserve to be poor. They deserve to be homeless. Oh, what did most people say? Most people said, the status quo is fine. What was fine? The status quo. The current situation. The normal, traditional situation was fine. They said the status quo is fine. Were most people happy with the status quo? Yes, most people, most rich people, most middle-class people were happy with the status quo. They were happy with the current situation. They were happy with the normal, traditional situation. Who was happy with the status quo? Rich people and middle-class people were happy with the status quo. They were happy with the existing situation. Were homeless people happy with the status quo? No, of course not. They weren't happy with the status quo. They didn't like the situation. They didn't like to be poor. They didn't like to be hungry. But most people were happy with the status quo. So, did they like Inca's idea? No, they didn't. They didn't like her idea. They thought she was crazy, and they said, the status quo is fine. Homeless people deserve to be homeless. Homeless people deserve to be poor and hungry. Well, Inca dared to be different. Was she courageous? Was she brave? Was she strong? Yes, she dared to be different. What did she dare to do? To be different. She dared to be different. Who dared to be different? Inca dared to be different. Did she dare to be different, or was she safe and normal? She wasn't safe and normal. She dared to be different. And she started to build houses using plastic bottles. She built small, cheap houses out of plastic bottles. What did she build houses out of? Out of plastic bottles. She built houses out of plastic bottles. Did she build big houses out of plastic bottles, or did she build small houses out of plastic bottles? Well, they were small. She built small houses out of plastic bottles. What were the houses made of? They were made of plastic bottles. She built them out of plastic bottles. What kind of bottles did she use to build the houses? Plastic bottles. She used plastic bottles to build the houses. Were they expensive houses? No. Very cheap. They were very cheap, small houses built from plastic bottles. Built out of plastic bottles. Who built small, cheap houses out of plastic bottles? Inca. Inca built small, cheap houses out of plastic bottles. She dared to be different. And in fact, this was a great innovation. Was this a small improvement and change? No, it wasn't small. It was a big, sudden improvement. It was a big change, a big improvement. It was an innovation. It was a great innovation, a great idea. What kind of change was this? It was an innovation, a big change, a sudden change, a great improvement. It was an innovation. What was an innovation? Well, building houses out of plastic bottles. Building houses out of plastic bottles was a great innovation. Why was it a great innovation? Because it was very cheap and easy to do. It was cheap and easy to build houses out of plastic bottles. It was a great change, a great innovation. Whose innovation was it? It was Inca's innovation. It was her great idea, her great improvement. It was Inca's innovation. What was Inca's innovation? Well, her innovation was to build small, cheap houses out of plastic bottles. So she had this great innovation. She was building more and more houses out of plastic bottles. And soon, every rich person in San Francisco embraced her idea. Did they finally accept her idea? Yes, they did. They finally embraced her idea. They accepted it. They were happy about it. Who embraced Inca's idea, Inca's innovation? The rich people. The rich people where? The rich people in San Francisco. The rich people in San Francisco embraced Inca's innovation, her idea, her great idea. Did they accept it a little bit? No, not a little bit. They embraced it. They loved the idea. They accepted it and they loved it. They embraced her idea. Which idea did they embrace? They embraced her idea of building small, cheap houses out of plastic bottles. They embraced her great innovation. They accepted it and they loved it. Was her innovation eventually embraced? Yes, it was. Her innovation was eventually embraced by all the rich people in San Francisco. So they gave her lots of money to build more and more and more plastic bottle houses. And then after 2 years, all the poor homeless people in San Francisco had a house. There were no more homeless people in the city. The homeless people were happy. And the rich people were happy. And Inca was very, very happy. And that is the end of our mini story for Be a Champion. I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Hello, welcome to the POV stories for Be a Champion. Let's begin. Inca has always wanted to help homeless people. In fact, she has always been a champion for the poor, starting in the far past and then up until now. During this entire time, she has been a champion for poor people. She has been a champion for homeless people. She has always wanted to help them during this entire time. In fact, she has wanted to build houses for every homeless person in San Francisco. Everyone. That has been her dream. Now, unfortunately, most people have thought that she was crazy. Every time she talked to someone about it, they have thought she was crazy. They have said, the status quo is fine. Homeless people deserve to be poor. They deserve to be homeless and they deserve to be hungry. This is what they always said. They have always said this. Well, luckily, Inca has always dared to be different. Since she was young, Until now, the entire time, she has always dared to be different. And a few years ago, she started to build small, cheap houses out of plastic bottles. So, about 2 years ago, she started to build small, cheap houses out of plastic bottles. She started 2 years ago. And she has continued until recently. So, starting 2 years ago, she started to build houses out of plastic bottles. And she has continued building them for 2 years. Now, this was a great innovation. In fact, soon every rich person in San Francisco embraced her idea. And after 2 years, all the poor people in San Francisco had a home. Every homeless person had a new house made of plastic bottles. The homeless people were happy. The rich people were happy. And Inca was very, very happy. And that is the end of our first story. Next, we'll go to the future. So imagine this story happening in the future. There will be a woman named Inca, and she'll want to help all the homeless people. She's going to be a champion for poor people. She's going to be a champion for homeless people. She'll want to build houses for all the homeless people in San Francisco. Of course, most people will think she's crazy, especially the rich people. They'll say, the status quo is fine. Homeless people deserve to be hungry, poor, and homeless. But Inca will dare to be different. She'll dare to be different. She'll build small, cheap houses from used plastic bottles. This is going to be a great innovation. And in fact, soon, every rich person in San Francisco will embrace her idea. They'll give her more and more money, and she'll build more and more and more plastic bottle houses. Until finally, eventually, after 2 years, all the poor people in San Francisco will have a home. They'll all have a house made of plastic bottles. The rich people will be happy. The poor people will be happy. Inca will be happy too. And that is the end of our point of view stories and the end of our Be a Champion lessons. Listen carefully. Notice the changes. Listen, listen, listen. Relax, relax, relax. That's all you need to do. See you next time. Bye-bye.